I have a nasty confession to make. I never played the first Echo Generations. I was debating how much to investigate it before cracking open the sequel before eventually deciding to do some light research, Googling it, and then going, oh yeah, I think I remember that thumbnail on a couple of sales. The first one passed by in 2024 without a glance from me. Consider this review both a redemption and a formal apology, because even with hardly any background, this is a contender for Game of the Year so far for me. But before we dive in, please consider meeting us over at Patreon. Check the perks out, but they include stuff like early ad-free shows, our podcast early, and a shout out at the end of our videos, and you get to feel good. So, Echo Generation 2 takes place a few years before its predecessor, that one taking place in the 90s and this one standing with both feet firmly planted in the 80s. From what I gather, there are at least a few returning characters this time around, namely younger versions of the first game's protagonists. Do you need to have played the first one to enjoy this? From my point of view, no. But I don't know what I don't know. Still, that did not stop me from having a really good time here. The bones here are strong. Everything is tight and just colored by artistic intent, and I am here for it. The gameplay is where your mileage will vary, I think. Exploration is not really a thing. As far as that goes, expect something closer to, say, a Telltale game. It's not an open world by any means, but there is plenty of stuff to poke around in. That may not be the hangup. What may turn some folks off is the combat. Personally, I've taken a liking to deck builder turn-based combat. They feel like RPGs where your movesets just get shuffled around between turns. And so Echo Generation 2 really hit that sweet spot for me. Put another way, think of the game's combat as a mix between South Park's Stick of Truth and Marvel's Midnight Suns. See, cards don't just cause damage or refill HP. They also cause certain debuffs and conditions that other ones in your hand can take advantage of when played in a certain order. Various cards come with different damage types that must be played to break an enemy. I came across many battles where I had to figure out how to maximize my plan of action to both do what I wanted and to work towards breaking an enemy at the same time. These cards you can get from combat or exploration. And since Pokemon cards are an absolute bitch to get nowadays, the dopamine blip I got every time I found a new card was pretty nice. What I want your takeaway to be is that combat is fun, strategic, and reflexive, even if it is a deck builder. But this game is more than just combat, right? The hook is the story and characters. I can't get into specifics, but I was hooked from the top of the first chapter, despite the Stranger Things similarities. So yeah, the game plays out in chapters, with some freedom around the midpoints to decide what order to tackle them in. Each one is pretty unique, in fact. I thought it was striking how much they could veer from each other. The game packs multiple genres with equal love and attention shown toward all of them. Echo Generation 2 makes me think of what every aspiring new writer sets out to do with their first, 1,000-page great American novel, which is create a sprawling story across space and time that perfectly brings together disparate people and protagonists and times and worlds and, it's this means that and whatever. It never works out, does it? Except here, they pulled it off. I truly didn't know what I was going to get with each chapter, which typically lasts anywhere from 45 minutes to a couple of hours. They're bite-sized, but pack king-sized flavor. Incidentally, that also negates some of the risk of the combat getting stale, since you're swapping out character decks fairly often and each one plays very differently. Tone could be an issue for a narrative as ambitious as this. Folks get messed up. Like, there is a crazy amount of blood and gore at some points. But it also maintains this, fun, almost campy undercurrent that somehow does not invalidate the stakes. Hideous monsters menace a family of 4. They're running for their lives, and the dad hands the baby a knife, and the baby joins you in combat. And yet, it never ruined my immersion. It just felt like watching a great movie where everything is on the table. Echo Generation 2 bends the tone so much, it all but creates a balloon animal out of it, and it almost never pops. A little more on that later. First, I need to shout out the music, okay? Which complements the 80s aesthetic perfectly. Like the writing, it adeptly swings from vibes such as scary campfire story to desolate misery to magical wonder to thrilling combat, all while not bartering away its own identity. And I want to hit on that thrilling combat point again. If you're playing this game with headphones, crank those things up. The music and sound design in general makes every combat encounter feel punchy and epic and Zack Snyder-y. If you typically think deck builder combat feels slow and dull, the audio might still conjure a sense of visceral immediacy. Still, it's not quite all sunshine and rainbows. Nothing is. While the overall tone is balanced throughout, a number of individual jokes didn't land for me. Call me a stick in the mud, but I think it's a turnoff for a dude to talk about leg day when his co-workers' entrails are all over the room. Even so, these fumbles are few and far between. It's not something I'd hold against somebody. I tell plenty of crummy jokes. Check out my dream drops if you need proof. And I need to walk back a little bit about what I said about tone earlier. There are a couple conversations around the midpoint especially, of which I can't get into specifics, that fumble the ball a bit much for me. They just make the wrong call, having the player character acting glib in a situation that should have been sold by sincerity. You know what I mean? It was kind of mismatched. Also, I like to think I don't quite have the attention span of a goldfish when it comes to tutorials, but there was a combat mechanic that I didn't grasp or realize until a couple of hours in. It didn't super impact my playthrough or even my enjoyment, but when I finally did realize that cards have a finite number of plays per encounter, I was like, oh dang, that explains so much. Turning to characters, I will concede that while they're usually very interesting and personable to me, they could be seen as a little flat to some. Many in the cast are the same people they are at the end as they were at the beginning. Not all, but many. I don't see that as a bad thing. This is a relatively brief novella of a game, and I don't think it demands the same sort of character development that other stories do. Finally, as a footnote, I should mention a little odd thing that I came across that doesn't impact the score of the game is that the game does have controller support, but you still have to press enter on your keyboard to get past the opening splash screen. It's not a huge deal, but I'm curious as to why that is. I'm being totally serious when I say that Echo Generation 2 gave my gaming hobby a shot in the arm. It's easy to get jaded and bored when you focus too much on big games and the discourse around them. But this one is crafted with care and is concerned with more than just gameplay loops. It took me on a fun, twisty-turny ride that left me smiling. Some games just have that X factor that clicks with you in a really special way. I would easily recommend it to anyone, especially anyone following this channel. By the way, I should say, it's not lost on me that this makes it 2 for 2 as far as glowing reviews go. I'm typically pretty hard to please, and my praise is normally understated, being as jaded and cynical as I am. But I think it's a testament to how much passion and talent is in this game. When I have to sit down with a, real stinker, I will look back on this game as the good old days. And that's why I am giving it a silver lamp.